My Little Pirates, Luffy's Adventures in Equestria, Fullmetal Pony. I have no idea what chapter we're even on anymore. Warriors of Dawn, Inevitability. Before the sun fully cleared the horizon, a platoon of Marines spilled into Marineford's plaza. They swarmed around a wooden scaffold that jutted up like a mismatched peg against the rest of the rocky island. Some of them carried chairs, while others climbed atop the structure and collapsed and stuck its joints to check its stability. More Marines spilled out from the town and the main building at the headquarters. They kept in regimented lines, forming intricate designs across Marineford. Some disappeared onto the warships, while others went into the bay's outcroppings and manned the cannons. Still, others linked up to various positions elsewhere, filling every tactical spot with at least one soldier. There was at least one Marine wearing orange and one Marine wearing red, as they both sat on top of a building and asked, "Hey, ever wonder why we're here?" It looked like a massive movement of white ants to Celestia. When the sun was at a full orb, the warship spilled out of the bay like hornets whose nest had been disturbed. The display held both her interest and sent a chill to her spine. Nothing could stop this. A glint caught her eye, but it came from the right rather than the sun. A beam shot into her room, followed by another, and then a whole swarm of visible light. It coalesced into a stalking human from that quickly giving it features. The man in the light had formed rubbed his chin, bent over slightly, and inspected the window Celestia had ruined.
Hopefully, this will be the only damage up here.
You can blame Don Flamingo like that, Admiral Kizaru, said Celestia.
I suppose.
Kizaru stood tall once more, straightening his sunglasses.
The Fleet Admiral would like to see you in the briefing room.
Will Garp be there?
No clue.
Without a further word, Kizaru's form burst into light and flitted away. It's Phyllis, but I must convince Garp to do something to stay the execution. Anything to get Straw Hat more time. Celestia concentrated and visited the briefing room in her mind. A golden aura covered her body as he vanished from her bedroom, only to appear in the briefing room. Margaret slammed on his neck to dislodge whatever he was munching on when Celestia appeared. Don Flamingo cackled. Kuma remained silent at Hawkeye's side. Akachi was propped up against one of his elbows near the head of the room, producing loud snores. Kizaru's light flew into the room and retook his form next to Akachi. You know, Celestia blinked.
Oh, guess I'm not as fast as I used to be.
A third man sat close to Akachi and Kizaru. His body rippled with muscle that even his coat and red suit couldn't hide. His angular cheekbones and cape obscured his eyes. The intense snarl on his face made Celestia think his association with dogs was quite fitting. Celestia took a seat by Hawkeye again. Why have we been summoned?
The fall has been disappeared.
Hawkeye replied. Before Celestia could make sense of Hawkeye's statement, the room's door flung open and Sengoku stormed in with and then Mushi clasped in his hand and a receiver to his mouth. It looked like its shell would crack at any moment.
Get some more spare squads to family housing then!
Sengoku slammed down the receiver, sucked in his breath, and slowly expelled it. With a restored demeanor, he calmly made his way past the admirals to the head of the room. He pressed his hands to the table.
Sorry, an issue has come up. Blackbeard is unable to be located.
Don Flamingo cackled even more.
He probably took your warning yesterday to heart. Hawkeye mused. I will fault a man for knowing when he is outmatched, but only a fool rages out Whitebeard. Regardless of Blackbeard's territory, he is still a warlord.
Sengoku replied with a scowl.
You are all one of the main lines of defense in this operation. Jinbei's refusal is already a blow to the plan, so I will have no more botches made today.
I wouldn't worry about it, Don Flamingo said with a cocky grin. If he ran, he probably wouldn't have been much help anyway. I bet all of Whitebeard's men know he's a weakling and didn't want to come out. Sengoku clenched his right hand into a fist, but didn't reprimand Don Flamingo. He spun away and made his way out, but stopped at the door.
Get breakfast and be ready to report your positions at 1100 hours. Portuguese Sea Ace will arrive soon after that, and we shall prep the execution at noon.
Celestia had no desire for food or being anywhere near Doflamingo. So as soon as Sengoku left, she teleported to the top of headquarters. She held some hope that Garp might be up there again, but she found herself alone. Darn. In a flash, she was at Marineford's harbor, with the waves crashing around her. If things didn't change in the next few hours, she'd be here again. A few Marines jumped back, or fell down at her sudden materialization. A small nub of pressure pressed against her forehead. I need to conserve my energy. One figure stood out amongst the Marines on 2 counts. One was his height that indicated great ancestry. The other was his lack of surprise due to the horned mask with holes like aspire skies covering his face. His white coat with the blue and gold geckos of a Vice Admiral drew Celestia close to him. Vice Admiral, I am looking for Garp. Has he been around here? She curtly asked.
That's Vice Admiral Garp, Warlord, the giant murmured. No, I haven't seen him. Now stop distracting us.
The giant turned away from her and marched off to wherever his task was at. Celestia looked up at the winding staircase that led to headquarters. Her eyes crossed over to the constantly rising sun. He has to be somewhere. A loud chime echoed across the island, signaling 10:30. Celestia's ached slightly, but it was better than the alternative flying around and making a spectacle of herself. Her Raz teleportation spells had done enough damage already. She swirled her hand through the air and coalesced some moisture into a spear. She gulped it down and listened to the sound reverberate off the white-ported walls around her. A few days ago, maybe just a few hours before she arrived at Marineford, this section of the island had been filled with women and children, simply going about their day. Celestia had come here enough times to see that, despite the location, family life still exists on Marineford. Now the empty houses, restaurants, and shops spoke only of the danger that caused the families to flee. It was foolish to think you had been here. A tap of the boot against the stone drew Celestia's attention to her left. A gloved hand grasped the corner of a house and hauled out the rest of Akainu's form. He swiveled his head and growled, but stopped when he spotted Celestia.
Trying to aid in fighting with Blackbeard, Warlord Celestia?
Oh, hello, asshole.
Why does everybody call me that? My God, one of these days I'm gonna find out who gave out my middle name.
Garp, actually. Celestia replied in a neutral tone as possible. I have no interest in Blackbeard. If he's fled, he's fled.
Pirates.
Akainu spat. He clenched his fist in the air around it, distorted.
All cowards at their core.
I can see you're busy. I'll go help search for Garp elsewhere.
Have you checked his room?
Akainu grumbled. Celestia stood still for a moment. A wing shot out as she took to the sky. She released the so air as she held it around Akainu. There was still a gaping hole in her temporary bedroom as he swooped in and sped out down the halls of headquarters. Stupid! Why wouldn't he be in his room? Her dance came to the hall at the sound of Garth's distinct laugh and Sengoku yelling at the top of his lungs.
First there was Larry, and then the attack on the Celestial Dragons, and now this!
Celestia silently pressed herself to the walls and made up a Garth's room, and Sengoku were in. Sengoku's voice was calmed down slightly, but there were still undertones of irritation to it.
Even ignoring Shiki's escape 20 years ago, no one has dared to break into Uptown Town!
A booming slam made Celestia snap her head back in surprise.
Now your grandson has ruined that reputation and incited all hell there! Whitebeard is on his way here. The blackouts in any occasion. Do you realize the gravity of the situation we'd be in if Fire Fist was freed and Whitebeard attacked us? On top of all that, Kuma clearly lied to us. Not that this matters now, but between him, Jinbei, and Blackbeard, I wouldn't be surprised if the warlords all turned around and stabbed us in the back!
There was a brief moment of silence that was rent apart by the sharp crack of ceramic against the floor.
Don't sit there and drink tea, Garp. If you weren't the Navy's hero, I'd make you answer for every single sin your family has committed. My life isn't worth nearly that much.
Garp bellowed. Celestia stepped back a second before Garp crashed through the wall. She set up an invisibility spell and stilled her breath. Garp shook the dust off accumulating from the attack, stood up, and brushed the rest of the debris off his clothes. Sengoku's foot crunched over a part of the busted wall and he leaned over.
Just get to a scaffold.
Sengoku stopped away and let Garp by himself. At least he thought he was in the hallway. The latter sighed and heaved his shoulders. He gave his neck a good crack and walked off, but not in the direction of the stairway down to the plaza. Celestia kept her spell in use. It followed him until he came to a stop at a sliding door that only stood out from the rest due to the golden nameplate that read, Muggy D. Garp. Garp disappeared inside. But out of privacy, Celestia stood outside for a moment and canceled her spell. She knocked on the door's wooden frame. Vice Admiral Garp, it's Celestia. There is something I wish to discuss with you. Frantic clattering sound from the other side of the door. Garp flung it open after a second.
Now's not the best time.
It's about Ace.
Everything about today is.
Garp pulled on the door to his side, but Celestia stopped him with both a hand and a fair amount of magic. I can save him. Garp's hand went to Celestia's shoulder and threw her into his room. It was dark and save for some sunlight coming out the window. Garp slammed the door and stood with his back against it.
What you just said is tantamount to high treason. You talked about your aides this morning, but saying things like that make you sound like my grandson.
You're about to execute the other one. Celestia sought back. If Straw Hat's rescue attempt and Impel Down fails, there will still be time to transfer Fire Fist to Ace away before his execution.
Ignoring that you've been poking your head where it doesn't belong. You think Ace's sudden disappearance wouldn't go unnoticed?
Garp huffed. Yes. Celestia's hands glowed, and the light of the corporeal room surrounded them. Transparency formed with a face to make Garp suck at his breath. Standing like a propped-up mannequin was Portuguese Ace. It's a rough approximation, but a skillful illusion nonetheless. Celestia tossed off one of her hands to the hologram at his neck. Ace's head rolled around Garp's feet. Convincing enough? Garp kicked the macabre prop away, and it dispersed back into light.
What of Whitebeard? Loser or not, Ace's death will set him in a race against us. It's just gonna arrive at any moment, and the battle will start no matter what.
Then either you or I will get to him as fast as possible, and tell him that Fire Feast is safe, but that he's dead to the world. Garp was about to reply when a siren wailed all throughout Marineford. It was then replaced by Sengoku's voice.
Portuguese D. Ace has arrived at Marineford. All soldiers are to be in position ready for the attack.
Garp turned his attention back to Celestia.
Why do this? What do you gain from it?
Stability, for one, Celestia replied. You know as well as I do, a confrontation of this scale will pulsate around the world. Countless lives across the seas. Civilian lives will be in danger. Islands like Jimbei's will be thrown into chaos should the Marines win, and that's as much as I hate to say it. It's always true if Whitebeard triumphs. The entire balance that I've seen form in the last 20 years is going to be thrown away for a single man.
It's more complex than that,
Garp interjected. I know that. This is personal for you. Celestia stepped closer to Garp. Let's tremble a little, but her eyes stayed stark. I can't allow you to watch your own family be taken away from you. Garp blinked and grabbed the bridge of his nose with his thumb and index finger.
You're speaking from experience, aren't you? Fine. Let's say you get Ace out of here and get Whitebeard to call off his attack. What then? Will you keep Ace into your kingdom until he dies? His ties with Whitebeard are too strung up.
I'll chain him up if I have to. He'll still live, and Whitebeard will eventually die of old age in a few years. They'll all be happy knowing everyone survived this ordeal.
It's not that simple!
Garp pounded a fist to the ground, the area around it cratered. He kept the knee to the floor, pounded his fist to the floor.
You think I haven't thought of similar plans? If Ace were a normal pirate, I'd have busted him out and impaled down myself, said Goku. He won't stop until Ace is truly dead. Your treachery will eventually come out, and he set his sights on you and your kingdom. Look out the window. This will annihilate everything you know, if Ace is to be executed. I'd rather just be the Marines and pirates that die today. Now get out.
Wait, was that an actually well thought out, well crafted plan coming from Celestia that would help everybody? Okay, granted, the saving thing is stupid, but that was a reasonable plan that actually used your elements well. I'm proud of you, Vic. You get a cookie. Blink, 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 blink. The bell tolled at noon, no matter how much Celestia didn't want it to. Her time travel spell had been wasted long ago on an inconsequential battle with Discord. Garp was trapped, and everyone else was either crazed to see Ace's head roll or just to get done with it and go back for whence they came. There's the man of the hour. Don Flamingo cackled. His eyes, along with everyone else's, went up to the scaffold. The rattle of chains cut through the hush that fell upon Marineford, and likely would have been heard as its sounds were amplified by numerous Den Mushis. Dozens of other snails were persistent around the island, taking in every angle of the event and broadcasting it to the world. Ace may have returned to human form, but the wounds from impaled down still covered him. His eyes had a solemn look to them that focused on nothing around him, rather stared into the future. His chains were limply connected to the scaffold, but every inch of his body spoke of tension and strained muscles. Sengoku stepped forward, his senseless to guard the Meteor scowl, and descended to where the admirals were seated in front of the scaffold. Sengoku took up a receiver, his voice filled Marineford.
I have something here to say to all that are gathered here and those watching this. The execution of this man, Spartacus D. Ace, is a matter of great import.
He gave his speech? Thought Celestia. Please, just prowl on until Whitebeard shows up. Celestia's heart sped up at the racing capability of Whitebeard's appearance. But as long as Ace died in a turmoil battle and Whitebeard lived, some battles could be restored. She just had to wait for any open and pray Ace's head would stay on for the next 3 hours.
Ace, Sengoku directly addressed his captive. Who is your father?
What stunt is this?
Hawkeye sighed. Whitebeard. Not true, Sengoku yelled. It's true!
Ace shot back. His voice amplified. It was easy to hear it crack with desperation and twins of rains.
Whitebeard's my father! No one else!
Jeez. Doflamingo shrugged his shoulders while Sengoku went on about finding information about a certain island. Talk about family problems.
You are so black! I'm not black, you're black, I'm black!
Celestia ignored him and listened intensely to his speech. Garth's words rang in her head.
If Ace were a normal pirate.
By the time Sengoku had finished talking about Ace's mother, Ace's face had got completely pale. Even from her location near the edge of the harbor, Celestia could clearly see his form shake. Skeptical murmurs all flew around her. Not a single Marine was taking this information in silence. An ominous tingle grew in Celestia's gut.
Don't pretend you don't know, Sengoku shouted at Ace and proclaimed to the world. Your father was Gold Roger, Pirate King!
No maddening roars, no violent shouts, no shocked gasps. Just silence. Draped itself over Marineford and may have well covered the entire world. Ace clenched his teeth and shook his head to clear away his statement, but the impact was already felt. In spite of his announcement, Sengoku still had more to say. Celestia clenched her hands and listened.
We're not the only ones who knew, though. Whitebeard, despite his rivalry with Pirate King, took you, Roger's own son, aboard his ship, so that he could raise you to be the next Pirate King. No! He screamed. I want Puffs to be the king! That's just a delusion Whitebeard fed you, Sengoku coldly replied. We made sure to hunt down any tangent that remained of Roger. Do you really think you would have lived this long if Whitebeard wasn't protecting you?
That's a start.
But we had to stop you already. Whitebeard has shown you the ways of a leader. Had he not been captured, it's undoubtable his eventual demise would bequeath you with his vast influence. The perfect springboard for a new generation of pirates for you to lead on a reign of terror. For those reasons, your execution today is necessary, even if it means all-out war with Whitebeard.
Now the battle cry came. Swords and other weapons were raised to the air. Don Flamingo laughed harder than ever. Moira scratched his chin at the news. Celestia bit her lip and drew blood. Her arms shook at her side, and parts of her hair rose up like tongues of flame. That's the reason for all this? Celestia muttered. The air around her grew hot, and Hawkeye wisely took a step back. Wings blazed out her sides, with swirls of fire dancing around them. For being born. Enough of this madness. I should have done this from the start! Look out! Someone cried out. All the attention on Ace went out the opposite direction towards the sea. Shadows blinking in the fog behind Marineford. He surged through the water and gained definite forms. There were ships of all sizes of various unique sails that signaled to their enemies who they were dealing with. But on top of all their masts and flapping in the wind was a black fang that contained a skull with a curved mustache like a sickle in front of two perpendicularly crossed bones. Whitebeard, Celestia gasped. The flame around her died, and when she turned, her wings back into part of her dress. She scanned the fleet of pirate ships, but none of them were the size or coloration of Whitebeard's flagship. At least none of them matched the data Celestia had received. Confirm Whitebeard's location! Sengoku's voice blared. As if to answer Sengoku, four dark shapes manifested from the depths of Marineford's Bay. Everyone stared down into the ocean and watched as a swath of bubbles rose up from the shadows. Hands tightened around the weapons, and muscles tightened up as sheets grew larger and larger. Waves of water flew up as force shapes broke the surface, revealing themselves as titanic ships. All of them were decorated with bows that had stripes running down to their keels, beady eyes and white grins that led to their surfaces resembling whales. One ship stood out with white coloring while the others were blue. Its size dwarfed even the other three monster ships. A silence, different than the one Sengoku's revelation had caused sunk Marineford. It was like a pressure, and the cause was a lone figure that stood on top of the ship. A glimmer of hope and a tremor of fear, Celestia. He's here. The man's size matched the ship's. Giant, even Akainu toned physique was nothing to the man's musculature. His lack of a shirt under his straitjacket aided in showing off his destructive power. His right hand clenched an immense bicento that was even taller than himself, and he slammed it down persistent and straight. A grin formed beneath his crescent mustache.
How long has it been, Sengoku? My beloved son had better be all right.
Pops! Ace called out.
I'm coming, Ace! Whitebeard proclaimed.
Next chapter, Thief. Whitebeard jabbed the tip of his bicento into the Moby Dick, brought one arm over the other. At the sight of the gesture, the Marines locked their knees and raised their arms, while the warlords readied themselves as Celestia threw him a barrier. Whitebeard shot his arms out and banged his fist against the sky. Cracks erupted out of his hands and spread throughout the atmosphere. The air shook and rumbled, while the sea below rolled with the same power. Instead of waves, hills of water formed and slanted into the bay. Even solid earth turned flexible and curved like the sea. The Marines lost their balance, and a few stood too close to the ocean fell into it. The quiver spread outward, and Marineford's ground became stable even once more. Celestia cautiously looked at Whitebeard, but her intensity was briefly shaken by Ace shouting, "Why can't you just abandon me?" She chose to ignore the rest of the argument and analyze the damage Whitebeard had wrought. A few cans tipped over, and melee Marines had fallen down, but no serious damage was evident. She turned to Hawkeye. A warning shot?
We are far past that point.
Hawkeye sighed. The ground shook again. It didn't distort as much as previously, but its magnitude was far greater and forced Celestia to rework her footing. The rumble grew and grew until it reached a fever pitch, then suddenly abated. In its place came a massive roar to the left and to the right of Marineford. Horror and awe welled up in Celestia's eyes. By the stars! The sea had traded places with parts of the sky. It came upon Marineford like a gigantic mouth about to close its jaw, intent on swallowing the island and everyone on it. Even the sun was blotted out by the biblical waves. Celestia's eyes darted over to Whitebeard. He remained in the same spot, and his booming laugh joined the tidal waves' roars to create a hellish tune. Does he intend to drown himself along with
us aids?
Akashi shouted from above Marineford. Jets of ice flew out of his hands and lashed onto the two waves. They froze in a blink of an eye, but Akashi was not finished. He aimed at Whitebeard and sent a volley of ice partisans at him and the Moby Dick. Whitebeard plunged in Akashi's direction, and the latter's attack was reduced to diamond dust by the resulting shockwave. Akashi was caught in the blast too, and his body cracked into ice chunks. They fell into the bay, but the frigid temperature spread, made the whole bay an icy field. Pirates took to the shades, abandoned their paralyzed ships, and rushed towards Ace with a resounding battle cry. Hand-to-hand combat will provide more distractions. Celestia braced herself to dive down to the ice, but paused when Hawkeye drew his sword. "What are you doing?" asked both Celestia and Doflamingo. The latter grinned at the coincidence.
"I just want to measure the true distance between that man and us," Hawkeye mused.
"Was the tidal wave not enough of an indicator?" Celestia dryly replied. Hawkeye responded with an immense blast of energy with his sword. The green wave raced across the bay, destroying stone, ice, and anything else unfortunate to get into its path. It zoomed towards Whitebeard, who stood up flinching at the newest attack. Inches from the Moby Dick, the slash slammed into a glittering object and shot upwards like a grand flame. The green light reflected through the impassable defense and glistened across the battlefield. But the attack eventually deemed, and the slash shrank until a shape of a bulky white torso man was left. His skin jutted up in multiple places, and was honed so much it was see-through. Diamond Josu. A bright flash in the sky broke Celestia's attention away from the Moby Dick. A spear of yellow and white and blue light floated in the sky. Kizaru's distinctive suit could be seen glanced along with talons and wings and human limbs all wrapped in azure flames. Celestia noticed that many other eyes were also spectacle, set on her wings, and flew towards the fray of the ice field. Whitebeard will shatter me like Akashi if I approach him directly. I need to figure out a way to get close. A shadow fell over the arena as Celestia's left. Josu had picked up a good chunk of the frozen bay and hefted it at the scaffold. A heat wave struck Celestia's back, and balls of magma scattered the ice and filled the sky. Discord was more controlled than this. A shape shot out from Celestia's right and crashed against her barrier. It struck with enough force to send her to the ground, but not shatter the spell. She huffed and held her ground, meeting her opponent eye to eye.
"That's a pretty powerful shield you got there,"
said the man. His burly frame flexed his muscles and drove twin sabers deeper into Celestia's spell. Despite the exertion, he kept a cheery grin on his string-like mustache.
"I'm guessing you must be the woman no Warlord
ever sees. And you are Commander Vista." Celestia's hand glowed as he saw it blast Vista's gut, but immediately grunted. "I don't have time to deal with commanders."
"Sorry, but Pops is a little busy with admirals right now."
Vista jumped back and dashed at Celestia. She concentrated her shield down until it was a visible golden aura around her body. Vista's sword sliced against it, and sparks went up into the air. But even with an enhanced defense, Celestia was still driven back a few feet. Celestia glared at Vista. The cold air swirled around her, and the visible force field rippled outwards. Weapons fell on the ice, and both Marines and pirates lost consciousness. Yet Vista was still standing.
"Ho ho! Supreme Key Hockey," he said.
"That's very interesting." A golden glow encased Vista and threw her to the other side of the bay. Celestia sighed in relief, but his shadow silenced her. It loomed over the entire harbor. While it wasn't as tall as the tidal waves, its size still inspired fear. The monster's horns and sharp fangs added to the creature's demonic appearance, but it was the way he held a warship like a plaything that completed his titanic entrance. His Titan entrance! And on that day, Fanfix received a reminder. Orsus Jr.'s size was mentioned in the intel, but seeing him up close made Celestia pause for a brief moment. An explosion brought back Celestia to the fight. Cannonballs and bullets exploded and ricocheted off her shield. French pirates and marines had gathered near her and fought with guns, swords, and their fists. The former took notice of her and rushed in to attack.
"Well, Ors takes a heavy fire. We'll deal with you,"
one of Whitebeard's men hollered. Celestia silently darted over to the nearest pirate and kicked out her leg. The brief moment of impact between her foot and the pirate's head, her leg reverted back to a huff and exploded into the pirate's face. It went flying back, a sign to their comrade, marine alike. A shift in the air made Celestia cough. An unnatural current rose up towards the plaza and concentrated itself around Kuma. A large paw-shaped bubble formed in front of him. It quickly shrunk back down until it was smaller than its actual paws. Celestia went to her knees and set up a second barrier. The bubble floated over to Oris's chest and exploded into a mammoth shockwave. Oris took a good portion of the blast, but the ice under him split as well, and everyone close to him was sent flying back. Celestia held her ground, but a brief moment of surprise went through her when a shadow fell over her. Darn! I can't Is that a hat? A massive accessory flopped onto the ice with Celestia under it. With its very structure around the design, the inside of the hat closely resembled a tent that could house a small town. The size also instructed those who were caught in it were merely thrown into darkness rather than crushed. Celestia sat on her wings, saw a fireball upwards. It chewed through the weaving, and Celestia threw out a new hole. A booming thud more akin to a thunderclap rang in her ears. She scanned the chaotic battlefield and instantly spotted Oris's foot yards away from the rest of his body. Oris himself had managed to cross the frozen arena with the upper half of his body clear of the base stone walls. His hand raced down to the scaffold, but came to a halt just inches away from Ace. An unsettling black spike jutted into his chest and through his back, high up into the sky. Moira and Don Flamingo's laugh filled the air. Celestia turned away, but still heard the boom when Oris's fury collapsed and took chunks of stone and ice with him. He breathed deeply and readied himself for casting multiple defensive spells. I just have to get a few words out. Where are you flying off into such a hurry? Celestia slapped her wings onto her back and dropped down onto the ice. Goosebumps covered her arms and legs. Don Flamingo stood amidst the carnage like he was walking through a park. The pirates around him kept a careful distance, except for the bull rim running one that stood above the others. He was only a few feet away from Don Flamingo with a mix of rage and mortification on his face. Just stop this insanity! It's so much fun, though. Don Flamingo's right hand twitched, and helmeted pirate swords came down upon his comrades. The anger drained from his face, and he cried out for Don Flamingo to stop, while he slashed more and more of his allies. Celestia lost his spell at the puppeted pirate, but it bounced off of something and dissipated into the air. Don Flamingo! Stop this needless torture! Why? He's a pirate. I was a pirate. We're all just here for the fight. But it's a fight of the best. Good, bad, whoever wins gets to decide. You're mad. Everyone here is. That's what makes it fun. Don Flamingo ceased his rant and turned his gaze up towards the sky. A large shape had appeared in the sky and was plummeting straight down to the battlefield. He didn't laugh, but his grin widened in his sight. Wonder where that came from. Is that a ship? Celestia's eyes lit up with magic, and her vision magnified the object. Sails and a hull came into view, answering one question, but raising a slew of others, particularly how a marine warship had gone so high up and was now crashing down. Celestia straightened the spell. Little dots strewn around the falling boat became clear. There were a few dozen people, or things that resembled people, and the giant-headed afro thing in leather was an indication. Celestia's eyes widened when she spotted a yellow-vested individual with a familiar hat stringing from his neck. Straw Hat? Celestia's heart froze at the sight of something next to him. Like the rest of the ship's crew, it had an equine shape, but it was black and glimmered in the afternoon light. Her enchanted eyes stared to scan the rest of the ship, and found that more of the black creatures buzzed around the ship. He loosed the changelings. Celestia! A voice roared. A demonic finger glided into her, smashing her through the barrier, carrying her far away from Don Flamingo. The speed and ferocity of the attack disoriented Celestia for a moment, and her eyes swam into sudden increased momentum. She quickly refocused, and first took in a jagged horn that only had her arms prevented from skewering her. A large cut had formed where the horn had sawed into her right arm, and both shook in trying to contain the attack. Predatory eyes glared at her past the horn, while fangs gnashed in excitement. Amusing look. Cressler sneered. You have a repugnant smell on you, though. You! Celestia screamed. She slammed her feet into the ice and kicked up shards. She huffed up under pressure of Chrysalis's horn and referred her legs back to their original form. More ice went flying, but her momentum slowed and eventually came to a halt. With even footing, Celestia pushed back against Chrysalis for the brief second necessary to leap back. Straw have freed you! What foul magic did you use to bewitch him? Only the plight of a caring mother. Chrysalis chuckled. She shook her head and loosened some ice that had gotten lost in her mane. Plus, some silly promise about not harming Equestria or your fullest student. His stupidity knows no bounds, Celestia growled. Quite, but I intend to keep my end of the deal. Chrysalis flashed her wings back, slid to Celestia again. Horn didn't pierce Celestia's barrier this time, but the ice beneath the two of them crackled, and Celestia still required her legs to retain their original form. Once he gets done saving his brother or whatever, he'll be mine to give to the hive. All these fools are for feast for me. Best of all, I never said anything about harming you. You're right. Sweat trickled down Celestia's face. She clenched her teeth and drew back her left arm. Recoiled back and exploded out as a white host struck right into Chrysalis' chest. She went flying backward and crashed into the ice with red-hot hoofprints he had been struck. We're not in Equestria. Chrysalis got their hustle and glared to Celestia. You can't stop me with that. This will be just like last time. I have more than enough reserves to take you. An invisible wave of heat and pressure pushed down on Chrysalis, silencing her. The attack drove her down, melting the ice around her, until she fell into the unfrozen sea below. In an instant, she zoomed down, floated over to the new hole with an animalistic growl. Damn you! Since this is an Equestria, I have no subjects to worry about, no homes I can damage, and no reason to hold back. Celestia's right hand glowed golden, and the light intensified until a solid god-like in form. Its cross-guard and pommel retained the sunny shine of Celestia's magic, and the latter brazen with her cutie mark. The rest of the weapon glimmered pure light, and a spiral pattern ends on its blade. I didn't intend to truly fight, but you are deserving of no less than my full might. Chrysalis, you have brought disorder to my kingdom, misery to my subjects, and harm that I just consider dear. You will not be going back to prison this time! Celestia raised her sword to the sky and swung it down. All the ice around her melted instantly, and a wave of heat rested Chrysalis. She buzzed to her life and lit up her horn while Celestia flew at her. A bolt of green magic arced at Celestia, but another swing of her sword dissipated the attack. What? Celestia's form glowed and vanished for an instant, only to appear right in front of Chrysalis. Her sword's pommel smashed into Chrysalis' head and knocked her to the ground. She leared up and cast another spell, but this one wrapped her body in a jade glow. Celestia rushed down, her sword met with Chrysalis' horn, but was stopped by Chrysalis' magic. The prince helps me again. So, you stole more than love from shining armor? Celestia scowled. You... A bit of blood dribbled out of the corner of Celestia's mouth. She looked down to see that a limb had buried the side of her torso. It was long and slender, and cloaked in a deteriorated black glove, brimming with moth-eaten holes. Pale flesh could be seen connected to green flames that ended at Chrysalis' shoulder. Yes, I am quite the thief, said Chrysalis. The supernatural fire at her shoulder spread out and replaced her black shell with a similarly colored dress that was as decayed as the glove on her arm. Her barrel shifted and swelled and struck in various spots. The flames reached her other foreleg, and it shifted to match the new arm, while sharp clawed fingers manifested out from where her hoof had been. She got up on her hind legs as a tarnished and rich gown materialized over her new, hideously pale limbs. Finally, the fire consumed her head, shrinking her muzzle until it was a sharp point on her face, slightly lowering her ears while keeping them pointed. Her skin went from shimmering black to sickly white. She reached up with her free hand and ripped the jagged horn out of her head, with a bit of ichor spilling down her face. Though it was a ghastly event, her mouth stayed open with her face clenched in a maniacal grin, and her eyes like a beast set upon its prey. I have to be smart, adept, and survive. I find my foods, and I exploit it until they are empty cells. Chrysalis' wings fluttered behind her, merged with both her skin and clothing in a horrific mass of fabric and flesh. Her removed horn contorted and flattened until it was razor thin, save for the end that Chrysalis grasped. It's Celestia. You've given me plenty of weaknesses. I have to say, I am a little bit miffed right now. Oh, don't get me wrong, this whole Celestia Chrysalis fight, awesome. Just one problem. You mean to tell me that you could have done this for Discord? You could have done this whole entire original bit for Impel Down, but you chose not to? You chose to make me sit through 4 days worth of the Impel Down arc, copied verbatim, when you could have done something like this from the start and rearranged it and actually make it interesting?